Welcome to the Equity Conscious Leader, a new generation equity podcast and YouTube channel where we chat with leaders about tangible system change and strategies to advance and sustain equity work in their organizations. Our conversations dive deep into the 6 dimensions of equity conscious leadership. So how do you lead with transformational system change for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging? Let's find out on this episode of the Equity Conscious Leader with your host and educational equity leader, Dr. Jag Lathan.
I think it's important in terms of, it's learning how to have effective relationship with people who are different than you. I think that's a skill and a competency that's valuable in any respect and, transferable to any other area. Thinking about whenever you go into a new market, you look at what are the needs of the people that you're going to be meeting and, what are they looking for and what do you bring to the table? So I think that's something that, sometimes people underestimate how well positioned they are to do that work, that relational work, because they've already been doing it in the process of growing their business in terms of trying to understand what people need and where they're coming from, and you're just applying it to your staff. And the reality is that this is reconciliation is a piece that's coming. It's about doing the right thing after genocide, essentially, and so the idea around how much more profitable businesses are that have diverse perspectives is something that we already know, but there's also there's a moral imperative here in terms of, you have an opportunity to participate in this important process. And, I think that it's something it makes you feel good as a business owner to be able to do your part and to do the things that you've been called to do and to be a part of your community, and not just a community that looks like you, sounds like you, lives like you, but, your whole community, and being able to connect with people in a different way and then benefit from other perspectives. It's not a favor to include Indigenous people, it's a benefit, right? Because your company benefits from the perspectives and life experiences and different ways of doing things that you might not have had otherwise if you weren't open to welcoming people in. So, I think everybody wins when we get to heal together and learn together and grow together.
Paulo Freire is one of my favorite authors, and he talks about the effects of oppression, and he talks about the oppressor and the oppressed working together to heal, right? And basically in short terms. And when I use the word oppressor, it could be oppressor based on race or ethnicity. It could be based on gender. It could be religious, right? Some places ethnicity is not the issue because everyone's the same ethnicity, but it could be religious affiliation. So it's I would love to hear from you around how can people continue to work together with that mind frame of we're moving towards healing. And then I have a couple of other questions.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to walking the walk. We can all talk about it and say that we care about these things, but how do we actually show that we care about these things? And, when I tell people, it's if you want to do something different, you have to be willing to do something different, right? And that's looking at the things that have been business as usual and reflecting on, is this a barrier? Is this really needed? What are you willing to do to change? What are you willing to do to welcome people in and give people the confidence to trust you to take that step forward, right? And to create the safety and the space so that people feel comfortable engaging and connecting and moving forward. So I think that's kind of where that starts, is that, we have to reflect on what we're willing to change if we say that we are changing, and really listening to people, because we might have our own ideas about how we can fix things or how we can make things better, but we might accidentally solve a problem that way. But when we listen to the people who are impacted, we also build that relationship and we're collaborating. It's not a rescue mission, it's a collaboration. And everybody's bringing to the table their experiences, their perspective, and their ability to work through this problem. So I think that's really, really crucial, is that when we work together, we can move forward, and then everybody feels more respected, more heard, more seen. And then how we talk about it. How do we talk about the work that we did together? How do we make sure that we are sharing respectfully and positioning our collaborations in a way that doesn't seem like, a sad story that has, music playing in the background for a telethon or something. But this is a story of success that people have been working together, and that there's a strength there, and that, that people are able to participate on both sides in order to be able to move forward and to acknowledge the strength of collaborators.
I love that. And there's a saying that the people closest to the pain should be in positions to actually solve the problems. And that is so true, because it's like when you have a lived experience with something, then your perspective on how to change that needs to be in the forefront, right? Otherwise, we're just kind of making up ways in which we can solve problems. And so that is beautiful. Thank you. The ideal state. What does the ideal state look like to you when you think about businesses really having a focus on reconciliation and healing?
I think that it looks like, a celebration of excellence. We talk about recruiting more people in and including your people and removing barriers. And that's not about recruiting people who are not qualified. That's about redefining the yardstick and finding new ways to describe how tall something is, right? Where you might have expected that, experience might look like this for somebody with these life experiences. You expend the mental amount of what could have prepared somebody to be able to step into these positions, and to recognize that excellence and the expertise that they bring. I think that's, because when you welcome more people in, when you bring in, Indigenous excellence into your business, and, you're compensating people fairly for their work, that money is flowing into their communities. And it has a ripple effect. It impacts, their ability to send their kids to college, to pay somebody to mow the lawn, and then that person has another opportunity. So I think it expands where, resources move. It creates capacity within communities, and, and empowers people to participate in philanthropy that didn't have the opportunity before, right? You give people resources, who knows what can change. And it's something that's really exciting to share together. So I think and then I think it also has the potential to provide, a different perspective that could improve business and maybe make things a little bit more humane, compassionate, and understanding of different perspectives where things might have been more restrictive because the model that it's based on has been really homogenous. And so being able to experience and think about how to meet other people's needs, you really have to be able to understand what they are. And so I think that there's all sorts of different ways that healing can have an impact, but even just on an interpersonal level, giving somebody an experience of feeling heard, seen, and felt, that's really powerful. And on a human relationship level, just one-on-one, creating more opportunities where people feel accepted and welcome and wanted, that's healing. That's like showing people that they can expend their mental map of places where they are safe and they're welcomed, where their perspectives are valued. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's something.
So you talked a bit, like what I'm hearing also is systemic change, which is the to me the whole point, right? It's like we're engaging in this dialogue. We're really thinking about what healing and reconciliation means in the workplace, but also is to a greater end, right? It's like, how do we begin to make systemic change throughout? And I heard you talk about financial gain. So, making sure that people are paid appropriately for their work. how many people, especially people of color, have contributed to society and don't necessarily have the financial kind of benefit from it, right? And so you talked about that. You talked about policy earlier. Like, all of this can contribute to how we think about policy, how we connect with people, to ensure that the policy actually is, in a broader sense, working for many people or all people in the organization. All right, so thinking about systemic change, I know you talk about, for example, health benefits connected to reconciliation and healing. Can you talk a little bit more about that?